Good day and welcome to the dining room table. New York City Mayor Eric Adams holds a town hall meeting and addresses affordable housing. Please subscribe, like, and share. So here we are at a town hall meeting, and someone who is a resident of the neighborhood is asking a question on affordable housing to New York City Mayor Eric Adams. Let's hear.
To talk to us, your constituents, on a Wednesday evening. My name is Michael Tellis. I've lived in the neighborhood for the last 12 years. I thank everyone who's made this neighborhood the special place it is. I have a two-part question. It's focused on something we've already touched on in the initial remarks. Mayor Adams, given your administration's demonstrated and articulated support for permanent and affordable housing, what steps are you all taking to make such housing available to deserving New Yorkers because of the demonstrated success in these programs, and that truly is what makes New York great. And then as a more local question, we have a $500 million shelter being built right up here on 59th Street that was signed off on in the dying days of the prior administration. There is heavy local support for this project to be converted to permanent housing, given the demonstrated success, as I mentioned, of these programs. What scope is there for that project to be converted to permanent housing?
First, is Dan here? Who's here? Who's here from Dan? Tell them about the plan we rolled out. People often ask the question, what are we doing around housing? Housing is a city and a state problem. There's not one elected official that's not going to say the number one concern they hear from their constituency is housing.
I've been saying that for years. That's where people rest their head. That's where they live. Housing. If you don't have housing, you don't have the stability.
Housing, senior, affordable, low income, middle income, because everyone is hurting. That's the number one issue. Then you tell me why nothing was done in Albany this year on housing. Nothing. We presented a plan, raise FAR. We presented a plan of converting office space into housing. We presented several different plans. The governor and I put together an ambitious program of building more housing. There was no reason we left Albany last year without one initiative on housing. Dan, can you go into what we're doing?
I will, Mayor. Thank you. First of all, I think that point is really important, that we do need to continue to work with our partners in Albany to make sure that we have support for growth in New York City of housing. In this neighborhood in particular, we have a full 20% of the residents of Community Board 7 who are considered severely rent burdened. That's not just rent burden, that's severely rent burdened, which means that you pay more than 50% of your income on rent here in Community Board 7. And in the last decade, this was one of the main areas of Manhattan where housing gains, like the ones that we are in right now, were significantly offset by housing losses in the same community board. Through combination of units, the Upper West Side was one of the neighborhoods which actually lost units as a result of combining smaller units into bigger ones. Also true in Upper East Side, Greenwich Village, and Soho. But the mayor asked me to talk for a moment about what we are doing about it in New York City. We obviously are not just sitting on our hands and waiting. We have a real understanding that we cannot solve our housing crisis, the question of affordability, without every neighborhood in the city being a part of growth and supply. Our housing in New York has not kept up with the demand. The vacancy rates for apartments under $1,500 a month is less than 1% today. The results are what the questioner is asking about. Rents in Manhattan, which are exorbitantly high. They are exorbitantly high everywhere. Pressures of displacement, gentrification, homelessness, the imbalance of power between landlords on one hand and tenants on the other. If you don't have vacancies, tenants have very few rights, and we need to alleviate that situation. So later this fall, we are going to be presenting the mayor's housing opportunity initiative, which is a zoning proposal which is how we are trying to address this issue locally. It's a zoning text amendment, which means that we're going to be making changes in every neighborhood from high density areas like this one to low density areas throughout the city and everywhere in between. Adding a little bit of new housing in every neighborhood, we believe, will make a significant impact here. We'll be looking at office conversions, off-street parking regulations, and a whole lot more. And the mayor has charged us with some very big goals on delivering housing for this city, and we expect to be able to deliver on that, and we look forward to talking about that more publicly soon.
And so our crisis is an inventory problem. We have more people looking for housing than what we are building. We used to have the 421A. We lost that. We see the substantial impact. That was the tax incentives to incentivize building. We lost that. We wanted to do office conversion, 138 million square feet of office. People are now working from home. We wanted to convert those into housing. We did not get that done in Albany. We wanted to raise the FAR. We did not get that done in Albany. And then the local conversation. I can't tell you how many times we have come to communities and say, let's build here. People will rally on Monday about affordable housing, and then on Tuesday they say, you can't build it on my block. Listen, we have to be honest about this conversation. I need help in Albany. We're going to do our part. We're going to need help in the city council. We have an inventory problem. We want to build as much as possible to place people in housing. HBD, can we talk about that shelter that we were just talking about?
Yeah, sure. So thank you for the question. Building off of the point that was made about rent burden, in New York City, there's more than 500,000 households that earn less than $30,000 a year and pay more than 50% of their income in rent. That is 500,000 households that are one emergency away from needing shelter. The analogy that I've heard used that I think is really compelling is think of shelter as an emergency room. Right? Absolutely, we need the permanent housing, but we need that emergency solution as well. This is a project that I think is going to be a really good one. It is ground up new construction so that we can really design it to meet the needs of the women. It will serve women experiencing homelessness, trying to get back on their feet. There's going to be a federally qualified health clinics that will serve both the clients in the shelter and the community. It's a well-respected provider with a long history of serving clients. So yes, absolutely, housing is critically important, but so is having safe, decent emergency shelter that can help people stabilize their lives. And I think this is going to be a really good opportunity for the women, and we are committed to working with the community so that we can make sure it is a strong experience for the community as well.
Hey, HBD, I'm sorry about that.
So there you have it. Mayor Eric Adams is giving an overview of affordable housing and also a shelter that they are looking to make into affordable housing instead of temporary housing, which, you know, we need more of. We needed more of this from a long time so people can come out of the shelters and getting to permanent housing. If you're building so many shelters and not so much affordable housing because, you know, the money was in the shelters. So, but it's good to see that, you know, some of these shelters are becoming permanent housing, or at least this one. Please subscribe, like, and share. We have so much more coming. Thank you. Bye.